So now we are on the Visual Studio, and I have already created a dummy application uh, with name of DI services, you can see here. And I have created already services. So one by one we will go through each label and try to understand how these services are going to used and how we have created, how we have registered. So this is just some C-sharp code, not very much difficult, so you can easily understand if you have a basic idea about the C-sharp and .NET architecture. This is a BL layer, and in BL layer there is three classes are there with particular name. So this is a BL scoped service. You can understand that I have created a scoped service, and there is a one property with name GUID string. So GUID string is storing system generated GUID string data, that is a 64 bytes. So it assigned through GUID string, and in the GUID string, and there is a one method get GUID by which we are returning that GUID string data. So what is happening here, how we are testing things, we will inject IL scoped service, this interface, and we will use at a controller level to get the information about the GUID string. So we'll compare the GUID string value. When the new instance will created, your GUID string going to be changed. So we need to understand how the object creation works in this life cycle. So in these three life cycle lifetime DI containers, how the object creation works. So for that particular reason, I have created this method, and I will return this string in our response. So there we will compare the values of different services. So BL scoped service, there is a BL transient service with same functionality. There is a GUID string, and I am returning GUID string through the get GUID method. And there is a Singleton service, that is a there is just same functionality GUID string, and there is a method get GUID. Okay, so there is a same functionalities all are there in each services. And this is IL layer, interface layer. In the interface layer I have defined with same method name get GUID in Singleton also, or in transient services also. So you are now seeing that in each service we have defined the same action method, same method, and we have created the same properties. So we are performing the same operation across the services, and inherited BL Singleton is inherited IL Singleton. So I have inherited these interfaces into particular services. Here we will see program.cs file. This is a entry point of the .NET applications, .NET core application, you can say, the program.cs file. So here your application start, and this is the entry point. So this region is builder.services region is for registering the services, what services you are going to register. And after the build, this is a pipeline, this is a this region is a pipeline in which you add the middle layers. So it is passed on through different middle layer. Every request is passed on through these middle layers. So we need to we want to see the registration of the scoped services, or you can say DI services, dependency injection. So this is a dependency injection registration. You can see in this region I've already written builder.services add transient. I have created a BL transient service through the transient registration, and BL scope services is injected through the add scope, and BL singleton is through the add singleton. So this is a inbuilt functionality of the .NET. So through these you can define that which uh, life uh, lifetime you are going to use. And at the controller level there is a service controller, newly created controller. In this controller I have injected all services: IL scoped, IL transient, IL singleton service. And why I have created that 1 and 2? So the reason was to creating 1 and 2 interfaces of each service is to try to show you how the object creation is going to work, and will they share the same object reference at each time, at a one HTTP request, at a application level request. So how they referenced their objects into this application. So that's why I have created a two interfaces for each service. So this is a declaration and this is an injection. In service controller constructor I have injected all the services. Okay, so you can see here these services are injected into controller. So this is a way of injecting particular dependency injection. And there are three ways you can inject. You can inject at a controller level, and you can inject at a action method level. That means you want any service at a action method, not particularly on the controller level. So you can inject on the action method level also. Here you can inject. So if you want to inject, then you can inject from services and then you can define. So I am just getting you give you the idea how you will do. And even you can inject as a proper at a property level. So if I have created any property here, then also I can inject for that particular property. Okay, so in this I have injected that these services, and I have created three endpoints. So one by one we will try to understand. This is a get transient goods. So here we will get transient goods. This is an endpoint, and this will perform the transient service operation. So transient service 1, transient service 2, both are calling the get GUID method, and they will get string values, and I have returned OK response with string 1 and string 2 uh, model properties. Same in the scoped also. Check scoped service 1, scoped service 2, both are calling get GUID, and get singleton GUID is also calling the singleton service get GUID method. So what is happening here, what we are trying to do is that transient service are 1 and 2. So two transient service are injected with same reference. So what will happen when any HTTP request hit this endpoint, then transient service 1 get different object and transient service 2 will generate a different instance or different object. So both values will be different for any HTTP request that we have already discussed. The transient service is work on the request basis, request injection basis. So this is a request 1 and this is a request 2. So both service will create different instances. What will happen in a scoped service? A scoped service has a two service injection, but when any HTTP request will hit this endpoint, get scoped goods, scoped service 1 will get same instance which scoped service 2 is got. So both will share the same instance, so str1 and str2 will have the same value. And what will happen in get singleton with? Singleton is referencing at application level. So at application level only one instance is getting created. So singleton will refer only one object. So nth number of time if you are hitting this endpoint, then str1 and str2 produce the same response at each request, at each hit of endpoint. But get scoped will get same string for str1 and str2 for particular one HTTP request. Again you will hit this endpoint, then str1 and str2 will produce the different output. str1 and str2 will be the same, they have a same value, but one HTTP request will produce the same different response and second HTTP request will produce the different response. So each time they will get, each request basis they will get different object. So from the output we will see that this is working or not. Okay, so now we are running and we will going to Swagger API endpoint. Now we are on the Swagger API endpoint, and you can see here the three endpoints in the service controller. First is get transient goods, get scope goods, and get singleton goods. So these are three endpoints. One by one we will uh, hit endpoints and will get the responses and try to compare the response that they are uh, matching with our discussion or not. So it will justify our discussion that we have learned the same thing or it is producing something different. So it's kind of now our justification. So get transient grid we have hidden, we have hit this endpoint and we have got the response string 1 and this is string 2. Okay, so now we will copy it and we will try to store here. But will not, I am opening some JSON editor. Okay, so now I am pasting here. This is a string 1 and a string 2. This is first time hit API response. Okay, we are not formatting any JSON, so this is getting some here, and this is a transient response. Second, we are try to execute second endpoint, that is a get scoped width, and we are executing. So we have got this response, and we will copy it and we will paste here. This is a scoped. And now we will hit our singleton endpoint. Yeah, now we will copy it and we will paste here. Now responses. String 1 has this response. String 2, 1 second, you can bear number, you can wait. Okay, so string 1 has this value, and string 2 has this value at a transient response. So you can clearly see that transient 1 and transient 2 we have injected two services. Sorry, same services with two interfaces, transient 1 and transient 2. So both are referencing. 1 second, I will try some other editor. Okay, so this is a string 1 for transient and this is a string 2. So you can clearly see that both has produced the different responses. So both transient scoped services referencing different instance in the same controller in the same HTTP request. So justification for transient has been done. That every time you are injecting any service, it will create a new instance. That's why it is producing the different string. Now we will see scoped. Scoped is producing same string for string 1 and same string for string 2. So you can clearly see that first time we hit API and scoped endpoint, it has referenced the same object for both interfaces. Scoped service 1, scoped service 2. So for any particular HTTP request, it will share the same object reference. And in Singleton, by default, if scoped has produced the same output, Singleton will also produce the same output. But the difference between scoped and Singleton will clarify when we again hit and try to uh, understand or try to fetch the response of both endpoints. Then we will be able to understand that scoped will produce the different string because this is a different HTTP request, but singleton will produce the same output or same response body because it is at an application level. So when the application running and running, it will produce the same output across the application. So for singleton, string 1 and string 2 will also the same when we again hit that endpoint. But for the scoped, it will change because it is at the HTTP request level. Now we will hit, I will hit transient also, but not need to hit this endpoint, but we can hit. I have hit that endpoint and now producing second hit API response and transient. This is a transient response. So now you can see here, I am just try to paste below here so you can understand. So this one is a first API hit response, this is second API hit response. You can clearly see that string 1 and string 2 are different. Different object are creating. Here is also the different output is producing. So Transient is producing the different output. That means it is creating a uh, different objects at a different injection level. What now we will hit scoped endpoint. So now this has produced this output after hitting. So now string 1 and string 2 are same because this is at a HTTP request level they are referencing the same object. So string 1 is string 2 is same. But what is the difference? Difference is there. In above, this string and string 2 has this value, and after second hit, this string 1 and this string 2 has a different value. So object is referencing at a HTTP request label for the scoped services. Okay. Now we will hit our singleton endpoint. Now I'm clicking. I have clicked, and now we will copy this response and will paste here in below the first hit of singleton. Okay, so this is a first API hit response, this is a second API hit response. So you can see here the same output is produced at first HTTP request and same output is produced for the second HTTP request. So nth time you will hit, nth time it will produce the same output for the singleton. So now I'm just hitting, and you can clearly see that string 1 has the same output, string 2 has the same output before the before HTTP request and after HTTP requests. So now you have a clear idea about the scoped, transient and singleton service lifetime of the dependency injection. So I hope you have understood all these three dependency injection also. So now you can explain to anyone about these things. This is a final output of the video, and thank you so much. If you like this video, kindly subscribe and hit the bell icon, and I will come up with new concept and new topic in CSharp and .NET in this playlist. So in same way we will understand and with same clarity. Thank you so much. Bye bye.